going to study Mitzvah Shem page 14. We'll start on page 13b, 2 lines from the bottom of the page. We continue the subject of the final stage of biblical Moses' life, the burial. So the Torah said in Deuteronomy 34, "Vaikbor oto bagai be'eretz Moav mul bet peor." So when you use the term "Vaikbor oto," for sure applies to God in a way. Amar Rabbi Berechia, siman betoch siman. You have here a sign within the sign. So it means a very precise description of the location of his burial. So the question is, what is this? What is the sign? And even you have all this preciseness of the burial, we still not, nobody knows where he was buried. So the interpretations, the rabbi said that he was such a level of spirituality, such detached from gashmiyut, from materialism, that all of his essence was God. So therefore people not reach that level. Remind me, lehavdil, but remind me several weeks ago when so many Rabbonim gave a eulogy for my late father. So one of the things they said that he was so detached from food, from daily mundane nonsense. My youngest daughter said, Ayala, she said, "Daddy, you know, I sat with my shifts at the hospital for long, each time, try to talk to him, nothing. Only halachot, only Torah, I want to talk to him." Otherwise, he was detached. You start talking with him about politics, about life, it's nothing. Food, nothing. Right, but the beauty of that, Moshe Rabbeinu here would talk, is the Eved Hashem, that he is the servant of Hashem. The only essence of his life is spirituality. So in my book on Rashi said, Klomar simanim arbe. So Rashi basically goes to all these details of what? Be'eretz Moav, Bagai, Mul Beit Peor. It's so much details, yet we still do not know. So again, now you see the essence of that, because the Sedek כבר שלחה מלכות הרשעה אצל, now we're on page 14, גסטרה של בית פאור, which means they sent it to a local military governor of the Beit Peor reign for the following order. הראינו אחד משה קבור. Hello, the Romans wants to get rid of the Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple, and exile the Jewish people from the land. So the Ben Yehoyada explained that that's the reason why they want to know where is Moses buried, because they knew that our power is Kol Yaakov, that we can pray, we can daven, and change destiny, and they want, that's the Torah Taknaot, Yun Yaakov and others said, that's the purpose of having people pray there to avoid such a decree. So Amdu lemala, nidma lahem lemata, lemata nidma lahem lemala. That's miraculously. It's like the thing is down, it's up, it's down. It's almost like lehavdil, you go at night. I used to do navigation in the service. So you think something is close, it's far is close. So נחלקו שתי כיתות, it was two groups. אותן שעומדים למעלה, נדמה להם למטה, למטה נדמה להם למעלה. לקיים מה שנאמר ולא ידע שתגבורתו. So again, you have, it's all, Ben Yehoyada said it's imagination, they don't really know. But it means that each of them was like, they thought they know, but that's the whole idea. So the late Kloisenberger Rebbe explains that there's several sources that said that Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, the Rashbi, Nishmat Moshe Rabbeinu, that he have the essence, I don't know if it's the right word, transmigration, but at least the spark, the essence of Moshe Rabbeinu. So the idea is, the whole purpose is, Velo Yadai Shet Gvurato, it was a decree that the Jewish people needs to go to a certain phases, Galut, Geula, etc. So we should not know his burial, so we'll not daven there, because if we pray there, we avoiding what part of the process need to take place, which is the idea of being in exile. But we do know where's Rashbi buried. We knew the Meron side, that is Poel Yeshuot. I was there a couple of weeks ago. That davening there carries a special meaning. So with that said, the Kloisenberger Rebbe explained, when it's come to Zayin Adar, the 7 of Adar, that is the outside of Moshe Rabbeinu, So many people have a fast day. Sad, Moshe Rabbeinu. Verses like Ba'omer, you see a big bonfire, you see seudot, you see feast, you see celebration. Why? Moshe Rabbeinu, we don't know where his burial, so it's sad. Versus Rashbi, we can daven, we can pray, he can do Pol Yeshua, he can be a Melitz Yoshua, a lobbyist for us, so therefore we treat it the other way. So רבי חמא ברבי חנינא אמר, אף משה רבנו יודע היכן קבור. כתיב בך, אבל לא יודע איש קבורתו, כתיבתם וזאת הברכה שברך משה איש האלוקים. So it means, that's Pirkei Avot in chapter 5, they say that the burial of Moses is one of the places that it's unknown. Unknown. It was like miracles. It's a Friday afternoon, Ben Hashmashot. So it's something too spiritual, the Maharal said, that it's above the comprehension of human, of us. The Meshech Chochmah in the Dvarim 34 elaborates of how detached is the understanding of Moshe Rabbeinu's and his burial. ואמר רבי חמא בר חנינא מפני מה נקבר משה אצל בית פאור. What's the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu was buried in the place called Beit Peor, which is the basic place that of worship, idol worship, in the Maharsha said? So the idea is כדי לכפר על מעשה פרעה. It's atonement of the, it's like they said the Akedah is the atonement. It's the atonements of the sin of Paro, that people worship idol. And it's a few midrashim that say that Moshe Rabbeinu is the one who smashed the idol. So anytime this idol come up in Yetzer Hara, Moshe Rabbeinu has the zchut to smash him. To remind me a story you heard from many Breslov Hasidim. They said that Reb Nachman have a special mission to be buried in Uman. Why is that? It was the tikkun for certain neshamot that was the Yidden was there at that time. So again, it's hard for us to understand that level. ואמר רבי חמא בר חנינא מה דכתיב אחרי השם אלוקיכם תלכו. You should follow the Lord your God. אחרי השם אלוקיכם תלכו וכי אפשר לאדם ללכת אחר השכינה. What do you mean by asking a person to follow the divine presence? How you ask a person to do that? ולא כבר נאמר כשם אלוקיך ישוכלהו. The Torah said clearly that God is a God of fire. אלא ללכת אחר מידותיו של הקדוש ברוך הוא. Meaning follow the trait, that attribute to God. מה הוא מלביש ערומים? Eve and Adam and Eve committed sin, still Hashem provided them with the act of chesed and gave them clothing to wear. That God brought clothing to Adam and Eve and dressed them. So also the obligation for us is to dress those who needs, meaning to do tzedakah for those who are in need. הקדוש ברוך הוא ביקר חולים דכתיב וירא השם אליו בנוני ממרא. The Torah said in Bereshit 18 that God appeared to Abraham in בנוני ממרא, which means God in our anthropomorphic language visit the sick. So the same way, אף אתה ביקר חולים, that's an obligation for us to do chesed. In order for a person to be attached to Hashem, he needs to do the way Hashem said. So there's a story about two rabbis that came here. You know, Meshulochim, they tried to collect money for yeshiva. So they went to one of those places close to my previous shul in Jersey, and they get lost, and they are stuck, and they have no clue where they are. So they knock the first door. The young lady opened, young girl, and she said, "Let me talk with my father." Talk with the father, and turn that the guy is Jewish, not practicing zippo, anything, everything, nothing. So he helped them with the erection, with the car, with everything. So they asked him who you are. He says, I know nothing about my Judaism. Only thing is I know I'm a descendant of Rabbi Yonatan Aibishitz. And it's a tradition in my family that if a fellow Jew needs help, you help. Chesed, you do chesed. That's the only thing the person knows. So these two rabbis were in a way shocked, impressed. They spent time. And this little girl married a frum guy. He's now in a kollel. And the family total turned frum. But the guy originally is no mezuzah, is no nothing in the house. The only thing he knows is that he have to do chesed if he's a fellow, need help. הקדוש ברוך הוא ניחם אבלים, דכתיב ויהי אחרי מות אברהם ויברך אלוקים את יצחק בנו. So God comforted the mourner. So that's the Gemara in Ketubot 8 said that that's the Birkat Avelim. Hafatanachem avlim, we have the obligation to comfort, to console, right? To give a word of condolences to those who lost the loved one. HaKadosh Baruch Hu kavar metim, the Almighty buried the dead. Dichtiv, the Torah said, vayikbor oto bagai, as we said, Afata kavor metim. We have the obligation to partake of burial, and that's the obligation of the Chevra Kadisha. So the Yismach Moshe explained. In one hand, we have this idea of going to the graveside of the righteous, like Moshe Rabbeinu, and we want to daven there. But he said, the truth is, if you follow the path of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is chesed, acting in a matter of kindness, that will be the best protection and savior, more than, in a way, visiting his graveside. The Zohar HaKadosh, the Holy Zohar, tells us that if someone from heaven, there is a judgment against him or her, from heaven they set it up in a way that that person have somebody that he or she needs to have rachmanus on, need compassion. And by expressing you compassion toward that someone, Hashem will basically have compassion on you. That's basically the savior, that by doing so, you're saving others. It's an amazing story I heard from Rabbi Yosef Nachum Strom. The story goes that it was a fellow need a heavy surgery. The doctors give him a very slim chance to survive. So when he wake up, he says, I'm looking for so and so and so. And the family look at him and says, what are you talking about? He says, I just talked to him, I have a conversation with him and everything. It turns that he did a tremendous kindness, hospitality, and everything to a fellow. And that fellow is no longer among the living. But while this fellow was in a heavy surgery, he survived it, apparently, because the other fellow was there. Anyway, so the truth is, it's a machloket. It's a machloket between Ba'ala Lachok Dorot and the Rambam. Ba'ala Lachok Dorot hold that chesed is the oraita. The mitzvah of doing kindness is biblical. The Rambam said that it's the Rabbanon, it's the rabbinic. So Reb Chaim Vital, the great Mekubal, the Talmud, the student of the Arizal, he explained, if you search the Torah, it's kind of hard to find a mitzvah of, total mitzvah that involve with chesed, but you have which they call Yesodei Torah, the Musar, the Midot, which means you can't have a building without foundation, without digging underground and having foundation. So he said, the Yesodot Torah, before you enter even the Torah, that's the act of chesed, is the foundation in order to build the Torah, is the Pirkei Avot said. Kotnot or, so basically we said that God provided them with skin garments for Adam and his wife. Rav Shmuel, Chad, Rav, Amar, Davar Rabba Min Haor. Davar Rabba Min Haor, meaning that it is a garment that made out of wool, which is derived from the shearing of a sheep skin. Bechad Amar, apparently is Shmuel, or from snake one. Shmuel said, Davar Sha'or Ne'ena Mimeno. But he said something that the person's skin takes pleasure, which is a garment that was a linen. So it's comfortable to the skin. The Maharal have a big malach here. Darash Rabbi Samlai, Torah Tchilata Gimul Chasdim, Tusufah Gimul Chasdim. If you look at the Torah, it's wrapped up with chesed. Begin with chesed, like Ruth and Boaz. Begin with chesed and ends with chesed. Abraham chesed, all kindness. So, meaning, Ach Tov chesed. The whole goal of Torah is bring a person to his best, to be in the life of chesed. Like, if you took the Gematria, the numerical value of Torah is Gmilut Chasadim, Sefer Hasidim said. So, Tchilata Gmilut Chasadim Yichtiv, V'az Hashem Elokim Adam Lishtok Knot Torah Ve'er B'Shem, the God prepared for Adam and Eve garments, and wore them. V'sofa Gmilut Chasadim Yichtiv, V'yigbor Oto Bagai. So, the Kotzker Rebbe said, that's the meaning of Derech Eretz Kadma LaTorah. It's like Hakdama. You have a book and you have Hakdama, you have introduction. That's the introduction for the Torah. Darash Rabbi Simlai, Nitava Moshe Rabbeinu K'nes L'Eretz Yisrael. What's the reason that Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to be in Eretz Yisrael? V'chi le'echol mipri, וצריך, או לזמן מטובה וצריך. Moses needed these gashmiut, these nice fruits and vegetables and flowers or whatever. That's cannot be. אלא כך אמר משה, הרבה מצוות נצטוו ישראל מתקיימים לה בארץ ישראל. We have mitzvot התלויות בארץ, right? The specific mitzvot that applies there. So the original Rebbe said, Admor Mirozhin, he said, when it's come to Moshe Rabbeinu, Torah said, what did I command you? Kim Lira, to have the reverence, the awe of amazement, the revere God. So what did he want? He wants to fulfill the mitzvot of Kliyot Ba'aretz. What is the mitzvot depend on the land? For example, giving tithe. For example, Shemitah, right? But the truth is a disputation between the Tashbets and others. If the mitzvahs like that applies also in the Jordan part, in the Ever HaYarden, or it's only net in Eretz Yisrael. So you have to say that Moshe Rabbeinu missed the mitzvah of Lo Techayeh Kol Neshama, which means to get rid of all the Amalek. And he also, the some said that he wants to complete the mitzvah of Arei Miklat. He begin these 6 cities of rescue, and Moshe Rabbeinu wants to complete that job by setting all of this. אמר לקדוש ברוך הוא, כלום אתה מבקש לקבל שכר? מעלה אני עליך כאילו עשיתם. You get the reward like you enter. שנאמר, לכן החלק לו ברבים, ואת עצמי מחלק שלל תחת אשר רע למוות נפשו, את פושעים ימנע, והוא חטא רבים נשא, ולפושעים יפגיע. לכן החלק לו ברבים, יכול כאחרונים ולא כראשונים, תלמוד בר ואת עצמי מחלק שלל. כאברהם, יצחק ויעקב, שהם עצומים בתורה ומצוות. תחת אשר רע למוות נפשו, שמסר עצמו למיתה. משה רבינו save himself to death in order to save the nation, שנאמר, וימיין מכן נע. He said to Hashem, erase my name from the book. ואת פושעים ימנע שנמנעים מתי מדבר. It's one of those that the generation died because of the sin of the spies. והוא חטא רבים נשא שכיפר על מעשה העגל. משה רבינו atoned for the sin of the golden calf. ולפושעים יפגיע שביקש רחמים מפושעי ישראל שחשבו בתשובה. He begged Hashem to forgive all these people, bad people, that they should change their way. תמו חטאים מן הארץ. The sinners should stop. do תשובה ואין פגיעה אל התפילה, ואתה אל תתפלל בעד הזמר אבל תישא באדם ברינה ופרע ואל תפגע בי. So do not speak up for them with the cry of prayer, and do not entreat me. So it means that he even davened for those like Avraham Avinu, for Sodom and Gomorrah. He davened for those who are sinners. So the Maggid of Koznitz said, when the Targum Yonatan explained, when Moshe Rabbeinu said to Yoshua that Hashem ka yoshiacha me'atzat meraglim, that Almighty will save you from the counsel of the spies. Why is that? Because Eldad u'Meidad have a prophecy, and they saw in the prophecy that Moshe Rabbeinu will die and Yoshua will take over. And Yoshua came to Moshe Rabbeinu and he says, I don't want that. Adoni Moshe Klaim, put him in a jail. I want to remain your servant. So therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu was afraid that Yoshua will not let it go with the spies, with all of that. So therefore, that's the idea of Moshe Rabbeinu, that daven, that ka yoshiacha ma'atzat meraglim, that you should not fight against nature, against Hashem's decree, that you will take the leadership regardless if you want or not. Hadran halach hamkaneh leishto. Perek Sheni, the second chapter. Now we go back to the subject of a process of sotah. היה מביא, the Mishnah Kedosha said, היה מביא את מנחתה בתוך כפיפה מצרית. So, Talmud Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud, tells us that it has to come from the husband's fund. But part of the process, as we explained, first we have kinui, then we have stira, the warning, the seclusion, and then the next step is he needs to bring, the husband needs to bring this special offering in a way that he clarified that he is free of guilt, and he brings his wife's meal offering to the Kohen in the Egyptian wicker basket. That's basically made of palm branches. Again, the simplest, the cheapest, etc. So the idea is the vessel is the lowest. It's a process of also psychological denigrations. Venotna al yadea, and he placed the meal offering in her hand to her hold throughout this ritual in order to kedeli yag'a is basically to exhausted her. So again, the idea is that they wanted to reach a point, if there's any serious problem, if it's a guilt, then they shall admit it. Now, Tosfot comments here that the Mishnah is not the order that it's written in the Torah, the process is not the same order, and he left it like that. Now, the Mishnah dealing with the difference between this meal offering and another meal offering. כל המנחות תחילתן וסופן בכלי שרת. All other mincha offering, so the way it's a process, the beginning and end, they are using a sacred, they're using a kli sharet, a special service vessel. וזו, however, this one is different, the סוטה, תחילתה בכפיפה מצרית וסופה בכלי שרת. You start with the one who is the wicker basket, the simplest one, and then you end it immediately before it's offered in a service in the sacred vessels. כל המנחות טעונות שמן ולבונה. All the other meal offering you need to pour in, they neither oil nor frankincense, which means that that's part of the amelioration of those offering. וזו אינה טעונה, לא שמן ולא לבונה. So in a regular mincha, they said, the Torah clearly said it in Vayikra chapter 2. Sotah, they said no, you don't do it, and the Mishnah in Menachot 59 said that if someone does it, you reserve malkot. כל המנחות באות מן החיטין, וזו באה מן השעורים. All the other menachot, they are bringing them from the wheat, and this one is brought from barley. So again, let's go by the specification of the Torah. Minchat HaOmer, the Omer meal offering, Af al pi sheba'a min ha'seurim, even you bring it from the barley, hi hayta ba'a geres vezo ba'a kemach. Meaning, the minchat ha'omer, they bring it with the process of 13 times sinun. Someone can tell me how do you say in English sinun? Sinun is like you broil the tea, and you have inside and you selected from the, how do you say that? You have all these leaves, right? And you put it and you pour the water and you wait a little bit. Right.
And
a strainer, thank you. So you strainer 13 times, right? That's the geres. Right. That's the way you do it. That which means that it's a high yeshakoach. It's a high quality meal. And this one, tochanim kmo shehu, you grind it the way it is. Now the idea is that because they have to do it 13 times, so that's the Torah requirement. Versus here, it's a wheat that combined with psolet, with leftover, etc. Rabban Gamliel Omer. So Rabban Gamliel said, "Keshem shema'aseh ma'aseh be'ema, kach korbana ma'achal be'ema." Meaning, it's again, as they follow the school of thought we've mentioned in the past several days, with measure for measure. In a way, the same as action of Sotah is an action that behave like animal, so the offering is a barley and not wheat, which is the offering of the animal that designated for animal. It's again the same mindset. So there's a book called Torat HaKnaot, another said, here the Gemara continued and said, Tanya אמר אבא חנין משום רבי אליעזר, וכל כך למה? כדי ליגע כדי שתחזור בה. אם ככה חס התורה על עוברי רצונו, קל וחומר על עושה רצונו. So if the Torah does that to so protective for those who secluded herself with a man and she was warned against, so and Torah try her best that not to cause her death, Kal v'chomer ourselves know how much so for people who follow God's will. So Torah Taknaot said, wait a second, if she tried to do that to her husband, so why she did not receive punishment? We have a famous Gemara in Bava Kama. The Gemara said, Hal iteu lerasha v'yamut. Over there, the Gemara in Bava Kama speaks about a wicked man that come and steal orla fruits. Orla fruits, as you know, that there is a concept in Torah that the first 3 years we're not allowed to eat the fruits and vegetables. So the Gemara asks a question, no, so that person who stole orla, let him eat and let him die. So why you don't say it here? So Rav Frank explained, Be'ola, when it's come to Ola, you have Isur Ano. You have the prohibition against driving benefit. But you don't have a Isur Geneva. Why? Because in a way, it's not belong to the owner at this point. It will be belong, but it's not belong yet. I always impressed, by the way, with Rav Frank. Rav Frank was the late Rav Frank was the chief Rav of Yerushalayim. So one time I have a long conversation with Rabbi Neuberger from Ner Israel. So at that time we travel from I traveled from BWI to Penn Station, and sure enough in Baltimore, Rav Neuberger walked in, and he saw a frum Jew, so he sat next to me, and for like a couple of hours we studied Gemara. So he told me a story about Rav Frank. I just recall. He said at one time Rav Frank have a chabura, a group of people that sat like we are doing and studies. So who was in that chabura? Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, my teacher, the Tzitz Eliezer, Rab Waldenberg, the Rab Eliashiv, and Chacham Ovadia Yosef. That was the group of people that studied by the chief rabbi of Yerushalayim, Rabbi Frank. Just to show you how amazing, beyond what, and Rav Wozner, the greatest Rabbonim that in our lives. Anyway, so they said Umimai. So because, how do you know that according to Rabbi Eliezer, the reason that they caused her, all of that is in order for her to back out, Mishum dechasahu, because the Torah cared for her. Dilma ki heiche de lo timache megillah. Maybe the purpose is that we don't want that this scroll that contained the name of God be erased. So the reason is the mechika, not to erase, not because of her. So Gemara said no. Kasavar Rabbi Eliezer hold 14b mashke ve'achar kach makriv et minchata. It's a process. First, the Kohen, the priest, gives her to drink first, and after he brings her to drink, he puts the korban mincha. So if you remember, we discussed the process, and we said, Tosfot mentioned that it's the different order, the way it's written in the Torah, the way it's in Mishnah, but the truth is, we have a Mishnah, in Mitzvah we're going to study on page 19, when exactly they're bringing her offering. Rabbi Shimon hold, you do that before she's drinking the bitter water. The first Tana, which first Tana usually if its name is Rabbi Meir, hold that it's after. So meaning here Rabbi Eliezer hold the same as Rabbi Meir or Tanakama, that it was after the bringing an offering was after the drinking of the bitter water. Again, we are here in the process. Okay, the process. If you tell me Mishum Megillah, the reason that we go extraordinary to talk to her is because we are concerned about what? Erasing name of God from this scroll. Ha'imchekala. We go by the view that when we bring it, afterward. So afterward, what happened already? The scroll was already erased. The name of God erased. So you cannot tell me the reason they're convincing her and going extraordinary with her, it's because of the name of God on the scroll. You have to say it's because the Torah go an extraordinary way over her lives to protect her, even she committed a sin. That's the way Tosfot said. So therefore, Rabbi Eliezer holds that the reason they do that, it's only to protect her. So even in that stage, there is still notion in the Torah that try to avoid punishment. It's still the last chance. So the Chebiner Rav, his father was a huge Torah scholar, huge Talmid Chacham. So one time he asked the Tzanzer Rebbe, the Imre Chaim, he asked him a question. If you tell me that she bringing mincha offering, so she can do a very simple thing. There is concept of pigul. What is a pigul? Pigul, we explain that when a person bringing an offering, and then the Kohen take it, the Kohen has to think what? That this is the purpose of so and so. That's part of the deal, we talk many times, that it has to have the kavanah, the mindset, that I'm doing so and so. Remember we talk when you write a Sefer Torah, it has to be Kedushat Sefer Torah. You're writing tefillin, you have to say this is for Kedushat tefillin, right? You're bringing an offering, you have to say this is for the purpose of so and so. So theoretically speaking, if she's bringing an offering, she can do something in a sense of that's not for the purpose of so and so, and therefore you have a concept of pigul, and if they have a pigul, so therefore the whole deal is not going to come through, because you cannot check her if the offering is not in a proper kavanah. Beautiful question, right? So it was Rabbi Yosef Engel, which again it was one of the luminary rabbi in the past generation. He wrote a special book. It's called Gvurot Shmonim, the Mighty 80. And he wrote in that book, listen to this, 80 answers to this question. Anyway, wow. So Kol HaMenachot, all the menachot. This, the upcoming Braita, is, by the way, I saw once in Yerushalayim a book that give 100 answers to the Beit Yosef. We're getting close to Hanukkah. The famous question of Beit Yosef about the oil that was for 1 day and they make it for 8 days, and the reason that we're writing the Hanukkah. What?
You mean why it took? Why?
Well, the whole, yes.
Why it took so long?
The famous Beit Yosef.
That, yeah.
Yes. So there's someone wrote a book. Again, past generation. I saw it in Yerushalayim. I think I used to have that book. That it's called, I think, something like Kuntre Samea or something like that. Anyway, 100 answers to that question. Anyway, Kol HaMenachot. So this upcoming Braita actually is a Braita in Tractate Kodashim. Here is the key source, but the discussion is Tractate Kodashim. So now we're switching to more understanding of procedure of offering. And we said, the Mishnah tells us that Kol HaMenachot, all the concept of meal offering from their beginning until the end, are placed in service vessel and remained there. So now we bring a Braita that contradicted it. V'aminu seder menachot keitzad. Let's talk about the process of bringing, the procedure of bringing the mincha offering. Adam mevi mincha mitoch beito. A fellow brings the mincha offering from his home, that's in Tosefta Menachot, and בקלטות with basket של כסף ושל זהב. Those baskets made of silver of gold. So then the idea is not בכלי שרת, not in the, how do you say?
Service vessels.
Thank you, service vessels. Now, when he reached the Azara, when he reached the temple courtyard, נותנה לתוך כלי שרת, he pulled it out and put it in a service vessel that is, in a way, it's a sacred, it's different entity in a sanctification of sacred vessel, umkadsha bikli sharet. So Rashi explained that has to be part of the intent, that offering changed the status. And the moment you place it within the service vessel, now the offering is already a sanctified offering. ונותן עליה שמנה ולבונתה, and then he puts its oil and frankincense, which means after there is a concept called kedushat haguf, the body, the entity is sanctified, and it's sanctified when you put it in the klei sharet, right? And that before he placed oil. The mincha offering began with the process of placing the oil, and that has to be in a mincha offering that already sanctified in what? Kedushat haguf, the entity is sanctified. So the Chazon Ish said that has to follow that process in order to change the position, the status of consecration. Umolicha etzel kohen, and then it carries before the priest, the kohen, bring it to the kohen. Vekohen molicha etzel mizbeach umagisha, and the kohen takes it to the altar. When I studied it, I was thinking one day that maybe it's worth it to have some type of cartoons or something like that, or illustrations, so people who study it, for sure we need budget, understand how exactly the process taking place. So they understand who's doing what and how. But anyway, for our best understanding, so the Kohen takes it to the altar and brings the vessel containing the mincha to where בקרן ומגישה בקרן דרומית מערבית, the southwest corner of the altar, כנגד חודה של קרן, on the spitz, on the tip of the corner, and they said vedayo, vedayo meaning that's sufficient. And then ומסלק את הלבונה לצד אחד, he takes the frankincense to one side, וקומץ, קמיצה, from the מנחה, ממקום שנתרבה שמנה, and you take this mincha and it removes the handful from a place where the oil has accumulated, and mix it with the flour, which means that it was well mixed together with the flour. ונותנו לתוך כלי שרת, and he placed it in the comets in a service second vessel, and he sanctified ומקדשו בכלי שרת, sanctified in a vessel, in a service vessel, ומלקט את לבונתה, and he collects the frankincense, ונותנה על גביו, and he placed it on the top of the comets. Then is a two version, but let's use the one, ומעלה אותו על גבי המזבח, he placed it on the altar, ומעלהו ומקטירו בכלי שרת, and he brings it to the top of the altar and offer it up in the service vessel, ומולכו, and he put the salt, ונותנו על גבי האישים, he put it on the top of the fire, קרב הקומץ, then when the comets was offered, שיעריה, what's the remain of the mincha, the leftover, נאכלים, they are eaten, ורשאים הכהנים ליתן לתוכה, and the כהנים are permitted to put wine, יין, ושמן and honey, ודבש, meaning oil, wine, oil and honey in the remnant, ואין אסורין אלא מלחמץ, and they are permitted only from allowing it to become chametz, become leaven.
They are prohibited from allowing.
Prohibited, yes, yes. So here we have to understand several things. Number one, בפה is רק קדושת דמים. So we basically said we have 4 עבודות in שחיטה. You have here, Rab Meir Simcha explained that when it's come to קמיצה, you do it מיסרון על ידי כלי קדוש לפני קמיצה. So basically there is a process here, but the process basically contradicted the way we express it in the Mishnah. Because the Mishnah, what the Mishnah tells us, let's remember the Mishnah. The Member said that all the mincha offerings are brought in a sacred service vessels, all bikli sharet. Katane miha. So the Gemara tried to reconcile this contradiction, and they said biklatot shel kesef ubiklatot shel zahav, which means they bring in a basket of silver and gold, and only later, once the mincha reaches the azara, the courtyard, it is placed in a service vessel. So how come the Mishnah said that the beginning of the menachot is using klei sharet, using a sacred service vessels? So Amar Rav Papa, Eima bechelim hare'uyin liklei sharet. It's the Mishnah meant that you have here the mincha offering, so it's in vessels fit to the service vessel if the owner will consecrate them. So here it's important to know there is a book called Torah Taknaot. He elaborates and he tried to juxtapose the mincha offering to the first fruit, the bikurin offering. Why? When it's come to mincha, one of the halachot is you need to bring it in a vessel that's befitting to consecrate the aid. So therefore you use those baskets that made of silver and gold, and regardless if the people are rich or poor. Versus when it's come to bringing the first fruits offering, we differentiate between rich and poor. The Mishnah in Tractate Bikurim, chapter 3, Mishnah 8 said that only rich people bringing in those fancy baskets of silver and gold. Poor people using a simple basket, because it's only considering hidur. Hidur meaning beautification of the mitzvah. So you see here again another differentiation, but miklal. So because the Mishnah using those baskets that made out of silver and gold, we understand dichfifa mitzrit lo chazia. So we understand from here that the basket made out of palm bast or any wooden vessel is unfit to be a service vessel. Why? Because we learn also in what?
Zahav or kesef? It has to be silver or gold.
The idea is, according to this view, it has to be only matechet.
Only metallic, not
metallic.
Not only anything.
Yes, the Gemara in Menachot 28b and also in Sukkah 50b elaborates on that view of Rav Papa, of the Keman, according to whom דלא כרבי יוסי ברבי יהודה דתניא, כלי שרת שעשה של עץ, if he takes the service vessels, and he fashioned it from wood. Rabbi posel, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said is no longer, now it's invalidates for make them a service vessels. ורבי יוסי ברבי יהודה מכשיר. According to Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda, only earthware, cheres, that's the only one that is not valid. Because it is so low that it's even a human king is not befitting. That's what he expressed there. So it means, according to Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda, if you're using an Egyptian one, a palm bast or any wood vessel, it's not befitting to have a service vessel.
Is any consideration the issue of whether it can be tahor or not, or whether it can be made tahor or not? Because because earthenware and wood cannot be, right, once they're made.
Correct.
Whereas metal can.
Correct. Soon you see, I'm going to speak also a little bit, if time allows, about Hanukkah. There is a notion that discuss the whole ancient story of Hanukkah and the current halachot in Hanukkah when it's come to the menorah itself, if it's made out of wood. So because we have a concept in Hanukkah that it's sacred, so you're not allowed to use the candles, right? You're not allowed to use wick.
For any other purpose.
For any other purposes. How about the menorah? If the menorah, for example, made out of wood or clay, how you treated that menorah. We'll talk about it soon. Anyway, afilu teima, even you tell me that the Mishnah follow Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda, Eima de Amar Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda, that those vessels that made out of wood are fitting, bachashuvin, that's applied to what? To those who considering superior quality. But he said, bifchutin, the one who's lesser quality, which means basket made of the palm branches, like the kfifa mitzrit, like palm bast, lately le Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Because you bring a pasuk, you bring a sentence from the book of Malachi, chapter 1, Hakriveu na lefechatecha. The text said, and when you offer the blind for service, is it not evil if you will present it? Now with you, governor, will he be pleased with you or show you favor? Nothing that is unfit for presentation to the ruler may be brought to the temple. So what we understand? That Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda must agree that the basket made of the palm branches cannot be as a service vessel. In general, we have a concept which we can derive a lot of lessons, which is how the proper decorum for house of the Lord. Here, we not even talk about people, we talk about vessels. So they said here that the certain vessels, it's not bekovedik, it's not proper to use for the service in the temple. So it means something like kfifa mitzrit, like palm bast, according to this view, that you carry the sotah mincha, that's basically invalidated to use it for the service vessel. Because again, it's not respectful to use it in a temple.
Do they have other uses? Like, are they more utilitarian?
Yeah. But you have to differentiate between preparation and service, right? It's like you go to fancy hotels, so you cannot serve with a plastic the guests, right? You go to Waldorf Astoria, you don't expect, right? Even usually in those hotels they give you a load of plates and very little food, but still they're using a fancy food, right? I went with my friend one day to New York, Waldorf Astoria, a wedding. And I said, I can't believe that. They're only serving us plates. I don't see a food, you know.
Food. It's there, it's right in the middle of the plate.
Yeah, you need a magnifier to see the food. Takes them forever to prepare, and then there's nothing there. They serve your plate.
And believe me, they took a half hour just to put that food on the plate and make it look so nice.
Right. And I'm not always sure if it's really fresh. But anyway, they imagine if they serve you with plastic. You pay $150 or more for a plate, for a chasana, right? So there are certain lehavdil. When it's come to Beis Hamikdash, they come the Holy of Holies temple. So for sure there are certain vessels when you're serving the Lord, the King of the world, you can serve him with something that it's denigration, you know. I have one time, years back, a clergy meeting. So they were talking. So one guy said that in one of those house of worship, they serve like the story of Cain and Abel. He's a contractor, left all the leftover, you know, like painting and all the things that instead of trashing it, so he dropped it in the house of God. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's the same story as Cain and Abel. You know, the story that God did not accept Cain offering because you give to God who gave you everything, instead of giving him the best, the first fruit, you give him the leftover. Right? Anyway, my Rebbe used to say, when you decided to donate for those homeless clothing, you remember, I'm sure that you all remember Linda, right? Mm-hmm. So years back, may she rest in peace, 14 years ago, I remember when she collected clothing, so she used to take it to Zip, to the dry cleaners, and cleans it, make it look fresh, new, and then she gave it to people in need. There's a certain way of showing some decorum, some respect. So for sure, when it's come to a house of the Lord, you don't use a cheap, low-class vessels to serve. So they say, ונותנה לכלי שרת, ובקדשה בכלי שרת. So basically the writer said that he placed it in service, a vessel, and sanctifies in a service vessel. שמת מינה, what you derive from that, בכלי שרת אין מקדשין, אלא ודעת. That the service vessels do not sanctify their content except with explicit intent. You have to say it in a very clear way. We explained earlier, if you remember, the Kedushat HaPeh, it's not Kedushat HaGuf, and Kedushat HaKli, it's Kedushat HaGuf, but anyway, the Keren Orah said that the idea of intent has to be just at the beginning of the process in order to have the effect of Kedushat HaGuf, but when it's come to comets, it's not. Anyway, אימה נותנה בכלי שרת, כדי לקדשה בכלי שרת. That the bright amen that the person placed the mincha in a service vessel in order to thereby sanctify it in service vessel. So it means that the vessel is sanctified even if is not intent. ונותן עליה שמנה ולבונתה. So the oil and the frankincense was right, so that it's befitting even someone who's not a Kohen. שנאמר ויצק עליה שמן ונתן עליה לבונה. The Torah said, and shall pour it oil upon, and shall pour the frankincense thereupon. So that's the process. The Re'em said, you know that my late father, Areni Kaparat Mishkavos, so they said that he wrote a book, Yad Re'em. Re'em was a very well-known rabbi, partially in Egypt. Anyway, so they said, when it's come to Hanukkah, we have the miracle. Now the question is, how they used the menorah. The menorah was tme'ah, because it was in the contaminated temple. So the Re'em said that it was made of a heavy wooden vessel.
I was going to ask that.
So according to Rabbi Yehuda, that's me'adrin me'adrin.
But wasn't also in the beginning of the second temple where they didn't they use wooden vessels as well initially before they had so yeah.
So מוליכה אצל כהן, דכתיב הביאה על בני אהרון. So here you see clearly that it has to be by the כהן. וכהן מוליכה אצל מזבח, דכתיב וגישה אל המזבח. So here, again, when it's come to Hanukkah, we have the famous Bnei Yisachar and Shiltei Giborim. They said that how you hold the menorah after we know that doing the service of Hanukkah, doing the lighting the candles, you cannot use any of those oils wicks. Sanctified. But how you treated the menorah, the Chanukiah, usually during the year, it's in a special cupboard in a house. Anyway, it's a big write-up. ומגישה בקרן דרומית מערבית כנגד חודה של קרן vedayo. So he placed it in the corner of southwestern of the altar against that corner. And it's enough. מנהלן דכתיב וזאת תורת המנחה, הקרב אותה בני אהרון לפני השם אל פני המזבח. Running out of time. Alright. ותנא לפני השם יכול במערב. Maybe it's in the western part, which means without any הפסק. תלמוד לומר על פני המזבח. אי על פני המזבח יכול בדרום. Maybe it's in the south of the altar. תלמוד לומר לפני השם. Which means the western wing. הכיצד מגישה בקרן דרומית מערבית כנגד חוטה של קרן. So he put it in the southwest corner of the altar, opposite the corner of the horn. And that's vedayo, and that's sufficient. So that's the source that the mincha offering bringing in that corner. רבי אלעזר אומר, יכול להגישנה במערבה של קרן או דרומה של קרן. Maybe you do it in the southwest or the south of that corner, because that's the place. אמרת, כל מקום שאתה מוצא שני מקרות, אחד מכם עצמו מקיים דברי חברו, ואחד מכם עצמו מבטל דברי חברו, when you have two, either one that defeat other source or one contradict the others, מניחים שמקיים חברו מבטל חברו, תופסים שמקיים עצמו ומקיים חברו. Because if you can, Rashi said, if you can have both, so better do this way. כשאתה אומר לפני השם המערב ביטלת לפני המזבח בדרום, כשאתה אומר לפני המזבח בדרום קיימת לפני השם המערב, הכיצד מגישה לדרומה של קרן. He brings near to the southern side of the corner. והיכן קיימת, how you fulfill is לפני השם. So they said, אמר רבי יאסי כסבר הייתה נקו למזבח בצפון קראתי. מאי ודיו, אמר רבא שהיא צריך סגלה לך מינתי בעיה הגשת מנחה גופה כמה שמלן. ואם האחינמי אמר קרב וקריבה אל הכהן וגישה למזבח, מה הקרבה אצל הכהן בכלי? Just as the presentation of the Kohen is in a vessel, אף הגשה, the same way it's bringing to the altar אצל מזבח בכלי. You must be in a vessel. So meaning that mincha, you don't need the mincha, ולא צריך שהמנחה תיגע במזבח, the offering will not, you don't need the touch in the altar. And you see here the importance of the decorums. You know, the late Khatam Sofer is a well-known rabbi that fought against the Maskilim, the Enlightenment movement. One of the big to-do with them was the issue of putting the chazan stand and the shulchan, where you read the Torah, in the center of the shul. One of the things they tried to do is to put it in one location. And he tried to say from this source and others that the same ways we have the decorum of certain sanctity in each and every small vessels in the altar, in the Mizbeach and in the holy temple, in the Beit HaMikdash, the same way we should treat it, the temporary Beit HaMikdash, which is our synagogue, our shuls, and you cannot make those changes within the shuls that basically defeated the whole traditional Judaism.
Shula